Extension schemas. Extension schemas are where you extend the NIEM and add new things that the NIEM didn't have. Now, the rationale for extending was already covered. It's in the 5th section of NIEM Advanced Technical Concepts. So you want to look for it there to find out how to do extensions. And those concepts are already covered. We're not going to do that here. What we're going to talk about here is the raw mechanics of creating an extension schema, basically the shell, how you do that in XML. And then the actual conceptual part of, well, how do I make new elements and which ones do I want to make? Well, that's again in section 5 of the Advanced Technical Concepts presentation. So what's the extension schema all about? Well, the extension schema contains reusable XML objects needed for an exchange, which were missing from the NIEM. You look for them in the NIEM. If they were in the NIEM, you would have put them in the subset, but they weren't in the NIEM, so you had to make your own. The schema itself must include a unique namespace declaration for it. Must also include references to appropriate NIEM, W3C, and any other extension schemas that you may have, references to their namespaces. So if your extension schema uses something out of the CIFS domain, you need to have a namespace declaration for the CIFS domain. You also need to have import statements for these schemas that you mentioned in the previous bullet, except the W3C. Validating editors already know the rules of W3C. They don't have to actually import the XML schema. But you need to reference all the NIEM schemas you use and any other extension schemas. If you've broken your extensions into more than one schema, they all need to be referenced as well and imported so that a validator can read them all in and do the right thing with them. So here's what the shell looks like for an extension schema. At the top, we have the schema element that starts it all off, and we have a target namespace. We just called it mynamespace.com/extension/1.0. So we've got our namespace for it. We have a bunch of declarations of the namespaces that we're using. So we have our own with our own little prefix, as well as the XML schema, as well as NIEM core, and as well as the NIEM zap info. Then we have below that import statements, because we need to import in the NIEM core and we need to import in app info, but we don't have to import the W3C one. Again, any validating editor already knows that by heart. Then we have a little annotation piece that's documentation. Says, hey, here's the name of our extension schema, which we called sample here, and a conformance indicator where we say whether or not this schema is NIEM conformant. And of course, ours is going to be, so we'll say true. And then below that, we have where we can define all our types and we can define all our new elements. Now, again, actually making those extension elements and those extension types is handled in section 5 of Advanced NIEM Technical Concepts. So here we just want to expose you to the shell, and inside where those comments are for defining types and elements, that's where your additions would go.